to go through the paper and provide the possible or the suggested answers. Then as we go through this paper, you need to know that it is a paper which is out of 200, and it actually consists of 3 hours. You write it during the course of 3 hours. So the instructions and the information, it is 5 sections and 10 questions. So all questions are compulsory. Then you are also encouraged to start a new question on a new page. So our paper is divided into different categories. We have short questions, which make up of 40 marks. We have map work and tour planning, which accounts for 50 marks. We also have cultural attractions, culture, heritage, and tourism, which consist of 50 marks. Also, you have tourism sectors, including sustainable and responsible tourism, which consists of 30 marks, domestic, regional, international tourism, communication, and customer care, constituting a further 30 marks. Moving on to the first page of our paper, or the first section of our questions. We have the short questions. Question 1, which reads, 4 possible options are provided as answers to the following questions. Choose the answer and write only the letter A up to D next to the question numbers 1.1.1 to 1.1.20 in the answer book 1.1, 2.1 D as an example. So what we have on 1.1, we have the map which appears below, which shows the 3 stages of the Tour de France 2024 throughout Italy. It actually shows, so if we look our starting point or our journey, it actually starts in Turin. This is our starting point. Then the final point will be Florence. So if you look at this, this is what we refer to as a linear route. Remember, a linear route starts from point A and ends in a different point, which will be point B. So this is referred to as a linear route. Then moving on to the next question, 1.1.2, the amount of a currency that a South African tourist is permitted to take outside the country in 1 year is known as the travel allowance. That is the travel allowance which is allowed in a particular year. So the correct answer will be the answer C. Then moving on to the next question. The next question reads, the infographic below is an example of, so we have an infographic which is talking about investing locally, saving water, protecting wildlife, protecting culture. Then we don't like all-inclusive resorts, animal cruelty, exploitation, mass tourism. So when you look at investing locally, this is one of the pillars of sustainable and responsible tourism. Saving water is also a pillar of sustainable and responsible tourism, protecting wildlife and protecting culture. So this is an example of sustainable tourism. So our correct answer in this scenario will be D. Then moving on to 1.1.4, an adventure tourist. So our keyword here, we might need to highlight the keyword. Our keyword is adventure. When you talk about adventure, we are talking about people who like experimenting and doing things which are not your everyday things, or which are not your everyday events. So an adventure tourist is more likely to do things which are more adventurous, things which are unusual. So the correct answer in this case would be letter B, which talks about a skydiving trip. An adventure tourist is most likely going to take or to participate in skydiving. So our correct answer there will be the letter C. Moving on to the next question, a health tourist would select the following type of accommodation. So our keyword then, we are also going to highlight the keyword which will determine the answer which we are going to take. So the keyword would be health tourist would select the following type of accommodation. So a health tourist is concerned with wellness. So they are likely going to choose an exclusive spa and wellness resort. They are most likely going to choose a wellness spa or a wellness resort. Then moving on to the next question, 1.1.6, the process whereby money is circulated or it is re-spent in the different tourism sectors, thus creating jobs and stimulating the economy, is known as the multiplier effect. That is when money circulates in the economy and it stimulates the economy. That is known as the multiplier effect. So our correct answer in this scenario will be B. Moving on to the next question. 1.1.57, the rise in the value of the rand may have the following on international tourism. So we also need to highlight our key point there. We are looking at its impact on international tourism. So the most likely result is that, let's go through the options which are there. The rise of the value of the rand, we are looking at the rise of the rand, which is local currency. So when the rand gains more value, it may make it more affordable for South Africans to travel to Europe. So our correct answer in this case, it will be D. A strong rand actually encourages what we call outbound tourism. So it encourages South Africans to travel abroad, to travel to Europe, simply because their money will be, when they exchange it to foreign currency, they are most likely going to get more in terms of foreign currency. Let's move on to 1.1.8, products that will be considered as prohibited. So we also need to highlight the keyword there, which will guide us in our choice of responses. The keyword there is prohibited. So when something is prohibited, it is completely barred, or it is not allowed to be carried inside into the country when traveling. So something which is prohibited in this case, which is not completely accepted at all, we have fireworks. Fireworks are considered to be a dangerous commodity, so they are prohibited at customs control, simply because they are made of the same substance which makes explosives. So in order to avoid accidents, they are not allowed to be carried along by ordinary passengers who are traveling for holiday or for tourist reasons. Moving on to 1.1.9, according to the 24-hour clock format, the time according to the 24-hour clock format. All right, so the correct way of writing time according to the 24-hour format is B. The correct answer would be B. Then I'll also shed more light on why we are choosing B as an option. Okay, this 24-hour notation emphasizes that we should write the first two figures, then we put a semicolon there, then we put the minutes on the other side. So we are discouraged from using H. We are also discouraged from using AM and PM. So our correct answer will be B, which is 9 o'clock. Moving on to the next question, 1.1.10, a symptom. A symptom is an outward manifestation of a disease. So a symptom that may be experienced by a tourist infected with malaria. So malaria is usually associated with high fever. So in this case, our correct answer would be the letter B, which talks about high fever. So this is the correct answer. 1.1.11, an example of a political event. Let's highlight the keyword there, political. Political, it is something to do with the governments of a country. So in this case, we have various events. The first one is the Cricket World Cup. That's a sporting event, obviously. Rugby World Cup, that's a sporting event. Then we have this one, the 49th G7 Summit, which is a meeting of the 7 most powerful or 7 most economically strong countries in the world. So our correct answer in this case will be the letter C, which is the 49th G7 Summit. So the G7 Summit is a meeting which is convened or which is attended rather by heads of state or members of different governments. So the correct answer would be the 49th G7 Summit. The benefit, moving on to the next one, 1.1.12, the benefit of Australia and New Zealand as host countries hosting the 2023 FIFA Women's Soccer World Cup was that. So in other words, the question is asking about the advantages of hosting a global event. So in this case, Australia and New Zealand, they hosted the 2023 FIFA Women's Soccer World Cup. So the advantage or the benefits which were accrued, these countries, they actually experienced more development of infrastructure services. So there was actually rapid development in infrastructure in order to be able for them to host the event. So more development of infrastructure services was a benefit of hosting that particular event. Turning over to page 6, where we will come across an icon. This icon is located in Rio de Janeiro, on the mountain of Corcovado. So this world icon is now known as the Statue of Crime, the Redeemer. The Statue of Crime, the Redeemer, which we know that it's a religious, it's an icon of religious significance. That is the Statue of Christ, the Redeemer. Moving on to the next question, 1.1.14. The extremely big cat-like statue with the face of a pharaoh and the body of a lion is called the Sphinx. It is known as the Sphinx. It is one of the icons which is found in Egypt. So it is known as the Sphinx. So that is 1.1.14. Moving on to the next one, the iconic venue where the Pope is elected as the worldwide leader of the Roman Catholic Church. That icon is known as the Vatican City. So the correct answer for this particular question is the Vatican City. That is the icon which is associated with the inauguration or the coronation of the Pope. So the Vatican City will be the correct answer. The next page, which is page 7, the World Heritage Site below is a natural site in Mpumalanga, which is known as the Bebaton-Makonjwa Mountains, which are believed to be the oldest mountains in the world. So it is a natural World Heritage Site found in Mpumalanga, which is known as the Bebaton-Makonjwa Mountains, which is also part of the so-called Genesis route. So the Bebaton-Makonjwa Mountains will be the correct answer. 1.1.17, the mode of travel in South Africa that was most preferred by international tourists in 2022, according to the table below. So we have the various modes of travels. We have air, we have road, sea, then we have the total. So in terms of arrivals, we have 2 million people, 121,232 arriving by air. Then we also have 5,863,598 arriving by road. Then by sea, we have 51,579. Then in total, we have 8,026,409. So these are the arrivals which arrived by various modes of transport. Now, on the departures, we have 2.1 million on this side. We also have 4.6 million. We also have 48,000 and 6.8 million in total. Now, our question reads, the mode of travel in South Africa that was most preferred by international tourists, according to the table below. So when we are determining the mode of transport, we look at both the mode which was used for arrival and departure. So if we look at air, here it stands at 2 million. In this case, it stands at 2 million. And here it also stands at around 2 million, which is significantly lower than the 5 million which we see on road. So if you look at the road transport, it actually stands out as the most preferred method of transportation or method of moving around, both into and out of South Africa. So road was the most preferred simply because it stands at 5.8 million and also 4 million in terms of departures. So our correct answer will be the letter A, which is road travel. So we need to highlight the letter A, which is our correct answer. Now, moving on to the next question, we have 1.1.8. The branding of a destination is a very important aspect of destination marketing. The brand logo used by South African tourism. So if you look at the first one, this one is for the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, which is not the answer which we are looking at. If we look at B, you see the name South Africa, then we have a South African flag, then we have the slogan, inspiring new ways, which is the correct, our correct answer for this particular question. So our correct answer is brand South Africa, whose slogan is inspiring new ways. The logo is made up of a South African flag together, accompanied by the slogan, which is inspiring new ways. So our correct answer in this case would be the letter B. If you look at the Tourism Grading Council, it's an organization which is much more concerned with grading of hotels and different accommodations. Then if you look at TOMSA, we'll be talking about the tourism levy. So our correct answer in this case would be the letter B. Moving on to 1.1.19, the advantage of this form of payment for a South African tourist visiting an international destination is to have cash on hand for immediate expenses. So we need to highlight the key term, to have cash on hand. So in order to have cash which you can use immediately, cash which you can use conveniently, you must have foreign bank notes in order to, so the correct answer there in that case will be the letter C, which is foreign banknotes. Now moving on to the 20th question, which is 1.1.20, the positive impact of excellent customer service delivery on an organization's business profitability. So we are looking at the positive impact. We need to highlight the term positive because it guides us so that we can come up with the correct answer to answer this particular question. So the positive aspect here is repeat business. When you talk about repeat business, is when clients return for a service over and over again, or when they return and purchase a product over and over again. That actually ensures that a business becomes much more successful. If you look at the rest of the responses, you can actually see that the rest of the responses are actually negative, decreased sales, negative word of mouth, increased marketing costs. So the question emphasized that we are looking for a positive impact, which is repeat business, where clients or customers purchase a product or they buy a product over and over again. So this brings us to the end of the first part of question 1. Now we are moving on to the next part, which requires us to choose a term from the list below to answer each of the following description. For each of the following descriptions, we write the term next to the question numbers 1.2.1 to 1.2.5 in the answer book. For example, 1.2.6 equator. So moving on to the first question, which actually reads, the first question reads, a principle of fair tourism where all employees are given an opportunity to participate in decisions that involve them. A situation where participants in tourism are so the first question reads 1.2.1, a principle of fair trade tourism where all employees are given an opportunity to participate in decisions that involve them. So when you talk, the moment you mention about involvement, we are looking for the term democracy. Democracy is a principle where all employees are given an opportunity to participate in decisions that involve them. So that is one of the principles of fair tourism. Now, moving on to 1.2.2, a concept used when the three sustainability pillars, planet, profit, and people are achieved. So that is known as the triple bottom line approach. That is known as the triple bottom line approach. Triple bottom line approach. Then moving on to the next question, the process of recycling and reusing and also reducing is actually known as waste management. It is an example of waste management, whereby you reduce the waste, you reuse the waste, then you also recycle the waste. Waste management. Then moving on to the next one, 1.2.4. A criterion regarding the payments of fair trade tourism certification. So then this refers to the issue of equal wages, whereby employees are compensated equally. Then 1.2.5, when tourists follow the code of conduct and behave appropriately at a destination, that constitutes what is called responsible tourism. That is known as responsible tourism. That is when tourists follow the code of conduct and behave appropriately at a destination. That is known as responsible tourism. Then moving on to the next question, choose the correct word or abbreviation from those given in brackets. So we have two options which are given in brackets. Write only the word or abbreviation next to the question number, 1.3.5 or 1.3.12, 1.3.5 in the answer book, e.g. 1.3.5 cholera. So local time, so our correct answer in this case, we are choosing local time, is the specific time at a particular geographical location. So that is known as local time. Different countries have different local times depending on their position on the globe or their position on the time zone map. Now, moving on to the next question. The bank will use when a German tourist at OR Tambo International Airport exchanges €1,000 to rand. So the bank is the one which is actually buying the currency. So the bank would use what we call the bank buying rate, which is abbreviated as BBR. The bank is buying forex from the German tourists. So they will use the bank buying rate. Now moving on to 1.3.3. GST occurs when clocks are moved forward by an hour. When countries in the Northern Hemisphere adjust their clocks by an hour, we refer to that as DST, which is known in full as daylight saving time. So the correct answer would be DST. 1.3.4, a tourist who has more items than the duty-free allowance indicates should go to them. When you have more items than the duty-free allowance, you follow the channel which is known as the red channel. You follow the red channel. If you have more items than the required amount, you follow the red channel. Then moving on to the next question, a tourist may apply for a visa at an embassy of the destination country. So if you want to go to a foreign country, you go and apply for a visa. So I'm going to rewrite these answers then. So here we have our visa. Then on 1.3.4, we have the red channel. We have the red channel. And here we are highlighting the correct answer, which is PBR. Then let's also highlight the term local, which appears there. local. Okay, so the highlighted words are the correct answers for this particular question. Moving on to the next question. The next question reads, choose a term for the form of payment from column B that matches the description in column A. Write only the letter A up until F next to the question numbers 1.4.1 to 1.4.5. So in this case, the first description which we have on 1.4.1, it happens electronically and works by sending international payment orders between various banks using codes until it reaches the destination. This method of payment is known as SWIFT transfer. It is known as SWIFT transfer. So the correct letter there will be the letter E. The correct letter will be the letter A. It is known as SWIFT transfer. Then 1.4.2, it is an electronic form of payment where money is transferred from one person's account to another. This is known as EFT. This is known as an EFT. In full, that is known as an electronic funds transfer. So the correct answer there will be the letter A, EFT, electronic funds transfer. Moving on to 1.4.3, tourists can use it to buy anything, and they have to pay back the full amount at the end of the month or over time. This is known as a credit, that is known as a credit card. It is known as a credit card, which is issued by a bank, whereby they give you money which you can spend, then you pay for it after a month or after an agreed period of time. That is known as a credit card. So the correct answer there will be the letter F. Moving on to the next question, 1.4.4. It is a paper document used by individuals to make payments to third parties, sender, financial institution, or receiver of money. It is used by individuals to make payments to third parties, sender, financial institution, or the receiver of money. This is known as a bank draft. It is actually referred to as a bank draft. So the bank draft is represented by the letter B. A bank draft is represented by the letter B, bank draft. Moving on to 1.4.5, tourists can use it wherever it is accepted as a form of payment, provided there is money on the card to spend. Usually, this is done using a preloaded foreign currency debit card. So the correct answer for this question will be the letter C. So going through this question once again, 1.4.1E, 1.4.2, that's A, 1.4.3, that's F, 1.4.4, that's B. Then the next question, 1.4.5, that will be the letter C. So those are the correct answers for the various descriptions which are given. Moving on to the next question, which is 1.5. Select the words or term from the box below to match the pictures in questions 1.5.1 to 1.5.5. Write only the word or term next to the question numbers 1.5.1 to 1.5.5 in the answer book, e.g. 1.5.6 passport. So already we have various options which have been provided there. We have customer feedback methods, customs, mode of transport. We also have foreign tourist arrivals, method of payment, and duty-free. So what we are simply doing, we are matching each picture or each image or each infographic to the correct description. So looking at 1.5.1, tax-free shopping. So when you talk about tax-free shopping, this is related or it is associated with customs. It is associated with customs. It is associated with customs. Moving on to the next one, we have a guest survey. We are on a mission to serve you better. Please fill out this card with your comments from your visit today. It's your feedback that gives us the opportunity to improve. We thank you for your business. So this is an example of a customer feedback method. Customer feedback method. This is an example of a customer feedback method. It's a method by which businesses find out whether customers are impressed or whether customers are happy or not. Then the next, we do have cards which are written, Visa cards here. So these are examples of methods of payment. Method of payment. These are the various methods which you can use to pay for goods or to pay for services. Then we also have the next 1.4, 5.4, which is South African revenue services. South African revenue services, okay, we have a point of correction which you need to make here. So the South African revenue services, rather, it deals with customs. So we need to put customs here. South African Revenue Services is in charge of customs. So in this case, we need to remove this one. The South African Revenue Services is in charge of customs. So tax-free shopping is associated with duty-free goods. Duty-free. So now we have the correct description. So we have 1.5.1 duty-free, 1.5.2 customer feedback method. Then we have 1.5.3 methods of payment. Then we also have 1.5.4 customs, which is associated with the South African Revenue Service. Then in addition to that, we have international arrivals, domestic arrivals. Basically, we are talking about statistics here. We are talking about statistics, or we can choose the correct term, which is here, which is foreign tourist arrivals. The graph which appears there, it actually shows foreign tourist arrivals. Tourists arrivals. Foreign tourist arrivals. So it brings us to the end of the first question, which had a total of 40 marks. We are now moving on to map work and tour planning, foreign exchange. You are supposed to study the time zone map, which is below, and the information on the next page, and answer the questions that follow. So as we are studying our time zone map, I think you can also indicate or highlight the two different cities which have been given there. So the first city, we have Prague. Then we also have the city of Paris. So these are going to be very, very important cities which we are going to deal with. So we also need to shed the time zone for Prague. Then we also shed the time zone for Paris, which also appears there. Now, moving on to the next question, we have a scenario which appears there. Third International Student Conference, Prague 2024. So the city where it's taking place is the city of Prague in the year 2024. Okay, let's highlight this. The Third International Student Conference is an important event for students from various countries to gather and raise their awareness on of the climate crisis. The conference promotes international collaboration and cultural understanding. Henry Mahlangu, a South African tourism learner, participated in the Third International Student Conference held in Prague. The time zone for Prague has been given there. The Czech Republic, that is in Czechia, on the 1st to the 5th of March, 2024. That's where the event took place. He gave a presentation on 5 March to highlight this date as well. and he spoke about the effect of climate change on cultural heritage. Henry could not get a direct flight, so he booked a connecting flight. We also need to highlight this. Not Paris and Prague, they practice DST from the end of March. So Henry's flight schedule was as follows. Leg one of the trip, he took Air France AF 0995, which departed Johannesburg at, so from the city of Johannesburg, it departed at 2100 hours on 29 February 2024. Then his flying time was 11 hours. Then he arrives in Paris at 7 o'clock the following day, which was on the 1st of March. Then there was a stopover in Paris for about 5 hours, which means whilst he was waiting for his connecting flight, he spent time in Paris, which was for 5 hours. Then the second leg of the trip, he took Air France AF 1382, departed France at 12 o'clock or 12 midday on 1 March. Then flying time was actually 2 hours. We also need to highlight this. Then we go to the gist of the question. 2.1.1, explain one difference between a direct flight and a connecting flight. So we are going to distinguish between those two terms. So when you speak about a direct flight, I'll start to write about a direct flight. A direct flight takes you to a destination. A direct flight takes you to a destination without stops. It doesn't stop anywhere. Without stops or changes in aircrafts. So a direct flight, it actually takes you to a destination without changing the flight. You don't change the aircraft which you are using. You simply take one aircraft which takes you to the final destination. Now, when you talk about a connecting flight, I'll try to write the connecting flight in the space provided above in a different color. So a connecting flight, requires you to, a connecting flight requires you to change flights or aircraft before reaching the destination. The destination. So with a connecting flight, you get to a place or to a city where you stop over before you actually take another flight or change onto another flight, which takes you to the final destination. So this is one difference between a direct flight and a connecting flight. So direct flight, you don't change or you don't stop over. You don't change the aircraft, but a connecting flight involves the change in flight. So this next question reads, motivate whether Henry's trip was affected by DST. So this type of a question, it needs us to refer back to the scenario which we have been given. So if you go back to the scenario in this particular section, note Paris and Prague practice DST at the end of March. So if you look at our dates, this is only the beginning of March, the 1st to the 5th of March. So in this case, the trip was not affected by DST. So we need to indicate that the trip was not affected by DST because it was early March. It was still in early March. DST starts end of March. So there was no need for them to practice daylight saving time because it only starts in the end of March. Now, moving on to the next question, which is 2.1.5.3 rather. Calculate the time and the date of Henry's flight from Paris arrived in Prague, leg 2. So in this case, we are calculating the time of arrival in Prague. Time of arrival. The arrival time. We are calculating arrival time. Arrival time is equals to departure plus flying time. So our arrival time in Prague, it means departure time from Paris plus flying time in Paris. So the departure was at 12 o'clock, which is 12 o'clock or 12 midday plus 2 hours, which gives us 14,00 hours of 1 March. The date does not change, it remains 1 March. So whenever you're calculating arrival time, you need to determine the departure time, then add flying time onto the departure time, then you get to the arrival time. So in this case, you can notice that we did not cross midnight, so the date remains the same. So the date of arrival was actually, the date and the time of arrival was actually 1400 hours on the 1st of March. That is the time of arrival in Prague. That is the time of arrival in Prague. Now, moving on to the next question. Henry's mother is in Johannesburg. So we need to highlight the Johannesburg parts. Johannesburg, we know very well that Johannesburg is +2. We need to write this down. Johannesburg. It is in the +2 time zone. Then decided to call him on 4 March. The date of the call was 4 March. We write it down. 4 March at 2000 hours or at 8 in the evening or at night to motivate him before his presentation. So calculate the time when Henry received the telephone call in Prague. So another thing which we need to determine is the time zone for Prague. So we go back and determine the time zone for Prague. The time zone for Prague, which is in the Czech Republic, it is actually +4. Prague is equals to +1 rather. Prague is actually in the +1. So the time difference is 2 minus 1. There is a 1 hour difference between the two cities. The time difference is 1 hour. South Africa is 1 hour ahead. So if it was 2000 hours, or if it was 8 o'clock in South Africa, 1 hour difference. So we say 20 or 8 o'clock minus 1 hour. It gives us 7 o'clock in the evening. So it was still on 7 o'clock for It was at 7 o'clock on 4 March. So that is how you calculate the time Henry received the telephone call in Prague. Moving on to the next question. This was Henry's first international flight. State 2 safety precautions he should have considered whilst at the stopover in Paris. The airports can also be dangerous places. So there are certain safety precautions which you need to take when you are at a public place, such as an airport. So I'm going to list some of them. Safety precautions. Precautions at an airport. At an airport. So number 1, the first thing, keep luggage inside. Your luggage inside, within sight, so that you avoid losing valuables. So keep your luggage within sight. Take this again. You are supposed to keep luggage secured. Keep luggage secure and within sight. So make sure that your luggage stays where you can see it. Keep luggage secured and within sight. In addition to that, wrap your luggage. Your luggage. In addition to that, you can also say that do not carry parcels. Parcels or luggage on behalf of people. Do not carry luggage or parcels on behalf of other people. Then another thing, always be alert. Must always be alert of your surroundings. Of your surroundings. So we can actually replace the word alert with aware. Always be aware of your surroundings. Must always be aware of your surroundings. So these are some of them, safety precautions which you can take at the airport. Then another thing, you must always ask uniformed members of staff for assistance. Instead of seeking assistance from strangers, rather ask from people who are putting on uniform. Now, moving on to the next question, 2.1.6, state whether Henry experienced jet lag or jet fatigue. So such a type of a question, it needs us to look at the 2 cities he traveled. So let me take you back to the time zone map and try to look at the time zone map and see whether this tourist experienced jet lag or jet fatigue. If you look at his starting point of his destination, we are going to circle the starting point, which is Johannesburg. Then the flight moved from Johannesburg straight up to Paris. Then up to Paris, there was only a 1 hour difference in terms of time. Then from there, he moves on to Prague, where we only have also an hour difference in terms of what? Of time. So if we look at the direction of travel of this particular tourist, you can tell that, yes, it was a long flight, but he did not cross multiple time zones. So in this case, the condition which he might have had is jet fatigue, but not jet lag. So we need to write the answer here. Henry experienced jet fatigue. Experienced jet fatigue. He had a long haul flight. A long haul flight. He had a long haul flight, but did not cross time zones. So if you look at jet lag, it is caused by crossing time zones. But in this case, if you look at the direction of travel of Henry, he did not cross several time zones. He only moved, there was only a slight difference of time zones, a slight difference of 2 hours, which is not enough to cause time zones. So in this case, he did not experience jet lag. He actually experienced jet fatigue. So our key our keyword then in the answer is jet fatigue. Now moving on to the next question. Moving on to the next question. Study the pictures below and answer the questions that follow. We have yellow fever vaccine on the left-hand side on column A. We also have an international certificate of vaccination or prophylaxis, which also appears on the right-hand side. Now, we need to identify the document. The question reads, identify document B. Look at document B. The keywords there, we also need to highlight so that we can justify why we are taking this particular answer. So I would want to highlight the part written vaccination. This is an important part. So the moment they mention about vaccination, we know that we are mentioning or we are talking about health. So this document is known as a health certificate. The document is known as a health certificate. Explain the purpose of document C. A health certificate. Health certificate shows proof of vaccination. Proof of vaccination against certain diseases. Certain diseases such as yellow fever. So it is proof which shows that you have been vaccinated against certain diseases such as yellow fever. So that is the purpose of document B. Then moving on to the next question, give the cause of the disease mentioned in picture A. So if you look at the disease which is mentioned in picture A, it is actually yellow fever. So yellow fever is actually a viral disease. Yellow fever is caused by a virus. By a virus transmitted by the mosquito. So the virus is carried from point A to point B by mosquitoes. So the cause here, the key term is the virus. The key word or the key concept is the virus. It is caused by a virus, which is then transmitted by a mosquito. So the mosquito is the one which spreads the virus, but the chief cause is the virus. Now, moving on to the next question, which reads 2 symptoms. We need to highlight the part symptoms of the disease. So when you have yellow fever, you're most likely to exhibit or to show the following symptoms. So the following are the symptoms. When you have yellow fever, you are most likely going to experience chills, or you can call it fever. Let's start with fever. High fever. Then you can have chills, whereby you feel as if you're cold. You can also have headaches. In addition to headaches, muscle pain. You feel pain in the muscles. In addition to that, you experience nausea or vomiting. Then in some case, there is bleeding or hemorrhaging, etc. So these are the known symptoms of yellow fever. Now, moving on to the next question, write out the acronym. Write down the acronym WHO in full. So WHO stands for the World Health Organization. WHO stands for the World Health Organization, WHO. So the next question, explain one reason why a travel agent will consider guidelines from WHO when planning trips for tourists. So WHO gives travel warnings about certain destinations. They issue travel warnings about destinations associated with health risks. So that is the first thing. WHO, it actually gives health warnings to destinations which are associated with health dangers or health risks. In addition to that, WHO also advises, the WHO advises on recommended or compulsory vaccinations. They advise whether it is recommended for you to take a vaccination before you visit that place. They are responsible for recommending vaccinations. Then also, in addition to that, WHO oversees World Health matters. So anything associated with World Health, it is monitored by the WHO. So they are the United Nations branch or arm which is responsible for World Health matters. So it is necessary to take their advice. It is necessary to take their guidelines. So who advises on recommended or compulsory vaccinations? So that is question 2.2.4. Moving on to the next question. All right. 2.3. Mr. James Singh will be traveling to a very hot climate and needs to take certain health precautions. Advise him on any 2 health precautions that you would need to take for the hot climate. So the first thing, when you are moving to a place which is extremely hot, you need to keep yourself hydrated. Keep yourself hydrated. hydrated. So it means you must have plenty of water to drink. That is the first advice which you can give him. Then in addition to that, you must apply sunscreen. Apply sunscreen when going outdoors. All right. Avoid overexposure to the sun. Overexposure to sun radiation. Then we can also advise him to wear sun hats and sunglasses. We can also advise him to wear sun hats and sunglasses. Also, in terms of dressing, you must wear long outfits which cover the skin. Also wear outfits which cover the skin. So moving on to the next question, which is 2.4. Study the picture below and answer the questions that follow. Do not carry or import restricted or prohibited items into South Africa. So we have the first one. It is an infographic showing us the prohibition of fruits, the prohibition of fish, animal products, plant products. So all plants and plant products are restricted, such as seeds, flowers, fruit, honey, margarine, vegetable oils, animals, birds, poultry, and products thereof, such as dairy products, butter, and also eggs are also restricted. So the question now reads, differentiate, explain the difference between prohibited goods and restricted goods. So on top here, I would explain what prohibited goods are, then move on to restricted goods. So prohibited goods are not allowed at all. To be carried through borders. So prohibited goods are not allowed at all. They are not permissible. So you can actually say that they are not permissible. They are not allowed at all to be carried through borders. Then moving on to the next one, which is restricted goods. Restricted goods, these goods are goods which allowed provided travelers meet certain conditions. For example, a permit. You might need a permit to carry certain things, even quantities, e.g., permits and quantities, permits in possession, and certain quantities as well. So these are goods which are only allowed provided the travelers meet certain conditions or have permissible quantities. 2.4.2, explain one reason why all plants and plant products will not be allowed to be imported into South Africa. So there are certain reasons why plant products cannot be imported into South Africa. There are certain reasons why plant products cannot be carried into South Africa. So I'm going to write this, the reasons below. So the first reason is that plant products, they spread diseases. Plants or plant products spread diseases. Spread diseases from other countries into the country in which they are being carried into. So plants spread diseases. In addition to that, we have the issue of invasive species, whereby if certain plants are brought from outside the borders of South Africa, they become invasive species such that they threaten the survival of indigenous plants. So they can be invasive species. So no wonder why plants are not allowed to be imported into South Africa. In addition to that, plants spread diseases. They are also invasive species. So those two reasons might suffice for this particular question. So now let's move on to the next question. Identify the channel that a tourist must select at an airport if he or she is traveling with any of the goods shown in the picture above on an inbound flight. Remember, an inbound flight is a flight coming into South Africa. So if you happen to be carrying those things, before the authorities even find you, you must follow the red channel. So the tourists should follow the red channel. Follow the red channel. And declare the goods or products in his possession. In his possession. So when you go to the customs office, you must choose what is known as the red channel. Instead of going for the green channel, you must opt for the red channel, simply because the items which you are carrying are not prohibited by law to be imported into the Republic of South Africa. So that brings us to 2.4.3. Now moving on to the third question. Study the image below and answer the questions that follow. So give them full names of the two currencies. So then we have the first currency which appears there. We actually have two full names of two currencies shown in the image. So the first, we have the United States of America dollar. States of America dollar. Then we have the European Union euro. So those are the two currencies which appear there. Then in addition to them, you can also see, I'm also seeing that we also have the Great British, pound. There is also the Great British pound, which also appears there. So all in all, we have three currencies. So the first one, this one is the euro. Then we have the US dollar. We have the US dollar, then we also have the Great British pound. So there you were only required to give 2, but we are also encountering 3 different currencies. Now, what we need to do is we need to study the foreign exchange rate table below as of 2 April 2024 and answer the questions that follow. Then we are required to show all calculations. Then round off the answer to 2 decimal places. So we have the currency code there. In one box, we have the US dollar, which is being purchased at 18 rands, 72 cents 69. Then the banks is being sold also at 19 rands 15 cents. So we have Mr. Joseph, an American tourist from Michigan, who has planned a summer holiday in Cape Town. He has budgeted 2,000 US dollars for his personal expenses and activities. So we are supposed to calculate the amount Mr. Joseph would receive in rand when he exchanges his money at Cape Town International Airport. So from here, we need to determine what we are doing here. So we are changing from forex. We are changing from forex to rand. We need to determine the formula. So whenever we are moving from forex to rand, we divide, we are moving from forex to rand. So whenever we are moving from forex to rand, we multiply. So what we are required to do, we are multiplying. Multiply by bank buying rate, BBR, which means that we have our 2,000 US dollars. We multiply our 2,000 US dollars by BBR, which is 18,7,2,6,9. We multiply by the bank buying rates, because in this case, it is the bank which is purchasing, which is buying foreign currency from the foreign tourist. So if you multiply this one, you multiply it, we do it together, multiply it, it gives you 37,453. Then we have 80 cents outwards. So that is how you calculate that, conversion. Then moving on to the next question. After his trip, Mr. Joseph is left with 1,500. Calculate the amount in dollars that Mr. Joseph would receive if he exchanges his money at Cape Town International Airport before his return flight. So we have a situation whereby we are moving from local currency, local to forex. Divide by bank selling rate. So when you're moving from a local currency to forex, you must divide by the bank selling rate. So what we have here, we have 1,500 divided by our BSR. Let's take out our BSR from the table, divided by 19,15,80. So when we calculate 1,500 divided by 19 rands, 19,1,580, we get our final answer as, which should be in dollars. We get our final answer as 78,30 given to correct to 2 decimal places. That's how we arrive at that calculation. So $78.30 is the change which this tourist is going to take back to the United States of America. Then moving on to 3.3. 3.3 reads, give one reason why a foreign tourist visiting South Africa would prefer a weaker rand. So when a foreign tourist is visiting South Africa, they prefer a weaker rand so that they can get, in order for them to get value for money, to get more value for their money. So what do we mean by this? When a tourist is coming from abroad, and during that time, the exchange rate of the rand will be weak, it simply means that they are going to get more South African rands for less foreign currency. So that is what we refer to as value for money. In that case, South Africa becomes a value for money destination. So that brings us to the end of question 3. Now moving on to question 4. So section C consists of tourist attractions, culture, heritage, and tourism, then also the topic on marketing. So the first thing, the first instruction, it says study the icons below and answer the questions that follow. So we have the Italian games. We have icon A. We also have icon B. Then we also have icon C. So the first question reads, name the icons A, B, and C in the images above. So when we look at these icons, when you look at A, you can obviously see that this is the icon which is known as the Colosseum. A is the Colosseum. Then B is the Leaning Tower. That's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Then we move on to the next one. C, that will be the city of Venice. Venice. So those are the 3 icons which appear in that image. Then moving on to the next question, it reads, name the continent where all the icons in question 1.1 are located. All these icons are located in Europe. These are European icons. They are located in Europe. And our keyword there, the question requires us to state the continent, not the country. So this is, these are European icons. Then state one use of icon A in the times of the Roman Empire. So icon A, obviously, this is the Colosseum, which was used during the Roman Empire. So the Colosseum, he had various issues, or he had various uses, rather, some of which I'm going to briefly state. It had different uses. So the first use, it was used as a sports arena. The Colosseum used to be a sports arena. It was a sports arena, which means that various different sporting activities took place in the Colosseum. Then it was a center for animal hunts, also took place in the Colosseum. In addition to that, it was also used as a theater. It was used as a theater for performances. Then in addition to that, you can also say the Colosseum was used for performing public executions. For public executions. So if there were people who were considered or who were sentenced to death, they would be executed in the Colosseum. So it was used also for public executions. Then, in addition to that, you can also say that the Colosseum was used for gladiators. It was also used for gladiators. It was used for gladiators. So those are some of the uses of the Colosseum. Moving on to the next one. The next question, give one structural effect of icon B. So if you look at icon B, obviously that's your Leaning Tower of Pisa. So one of the most, one structural effect of icon B, which is the Leaning Tower of Pisa, it has a 3-meter foundation. In addition to that, it has a 3-meter foundation. In addition to that, you can also say that it is tilted. It is bent, it is tilted at 3.97 degrees. It is tilted at 3.97 degrees. Then in terms of height, it is around 56 meters high. It is 56 meters tall. That is the height of that particular Leaning Tower. Then moving on to 4.1.5, refer to icon C, give one unique of the icon. So icon C, like what we have alluded to, that is actually the city of Venice. So one unique feature about the city of Venice, it is built on a collection of islands. Venice is built on a collection of islands. Then in addition to that, it has several canals. It is built on a collection of islands and it has several canals. Then in addition to that, you can also add that there are no roads in Venice. They use canals to move around or to navigate the city. Then name the mode of transportation used by boats, by tourists when visiting this icon. They make use of boats. Then there are special boats which are known as gondolas. Yes, boats, gondolas, the mode of transport when you are visiting the city of Venice. All right, moving on to the next question. Read the extract below and answer the questions that follow. This is the new center, which is opened at Niagara Falls. So the new center appears there. Then the information also appears there. It is a successful icon, which draws around 9 million visitors per year, more than any state park in New York. The new visitor center provides modern amenities, useful features, and facilities to millions of visitors arriving each year. There is also information on all Niagara, which has been offered to visitors. Most of these areas offer attractions and activities to everyone and is also accessible to people with impairments and disabilities. For example, the guided Niagara Falls trolley or tram or train that gives passengers an overview of the park and the area. Then the visitor center features glass walls. Then there is also a low roof to make it easier to see views and connections to Niagara Falls. Then it includes a new ticketing and information desk. The glass, steel, and concrete facility has been designed to complement nature, and it includes rooftop solar panels, green roof elements, and a separate restroom building. Other special features include new accessible paths suitable for wheelchairs, indigenous gardens, outdoor exhibits, and signs to show the way, special patterned glass to prevent bird impacts, birds striking the windows. The existing administration building next to the facility is changed to include a community room, archives, place to save historical documents and items, and offices for Niagara Falls staff. The new center also serves local food, local cuisine, and makes use of local retailers. All attractions and most footpaths are fully accessible, then are suitable for tourists and have excellent views of the Niagara Falls. So the question reads, name the country where Niagara Falls is located. So the country is, the Niagara Falls is located in Canada, or you can also say the USA, because the falls are on the border. Falls are on the border between these two countries, on the border. Between these two countries. But give reason why the Niagara Falls is considered an icon. There are several reasons why the falls are considered to be a national icon. Some of the reasons, they have something to do with the beauty of the falls themselves. So the Niagara Falls, they consist of beautiful falls. So the beauty of the falls actually makes them to become a unique attraction. So we can actually list that the beauty of the falls. Or we can say the awesome beauty of the falls. The awesome natural beauty of the falls. Of the falls. Then another thing, the sheer size. The falls are very big. The sheer size of the falls and the amount of size of the falls and volume of water So all these, they make the Niagara Falls to be considered an icon. Then the number of visitors. Visitors, according to the infographic which has been provided up there, it actually has 9 million visitors. So that also makes it to be an icon. The number of visitors, 9 million visitors a year. All right, moving on to the next question, 4.2.3. Every icon requires specific factors to be considered a successful icon. From the extract, identify one way in which Niagara Falls shows each of the following success factors. So sustainable and responsible management plans. All right, how does Niagara Falls show sustainable and responsible management plans? All right, if you look back on how they manage the site, there is information which has something to do with rooftop solar panels, green roof elements. So you can, the use of rooftop solar panels, you know that solar panels are an efficient or a clean source of energy. The use of roof solar panels and green roofs is part of sustainable and responsible management. And green roofs, the use of solar panels, which are in clean source of energy, and the use of green roofs. So that is the first thing. Then positive visitor experience. It is made sure that it is ensured by the following things. All right, we have glass walls. The visitor center features glass walls and a low roof to make it easier for the views. We have glass roofs. roofs, glass walls rather. Glass walls make viewing to be much more easier. To be much more easier. And even pleasant. It makes glass roofs to be much more viewing to be much more easier. Then we also have things such as modern facilities and modern amenities. That also increases a visitor experience. So modern facilities, modern amenities, modern facilities or amenities make also a a positive visitor experience to be a reality. Then considers the needs of the disabled. If you go back to the needs of the disabled, there are so many different strategies which have been used. We have wheelchair accessible paths, provision of wheelchair accessible paths are provided. That is the first thing. We have wheelchair accessible paths which are provided. In addition to that, we also have things such as suitable for wheelchairs. Even the paths themselves are suitable for wheelchairs, which brings us to the end of this particular section, which was a section which was out of 22. Now, moving on to the next section, which is question 5. Study the article with the images below and answer the questions that follow. The rise of heritage in South Africa. Heritage in South Africa is diverse and different. Some sites offer unique heritage created through adaptation process for tourism, seen as sacred space, as well as sites of past atrocities, cruelty, and war heritage. Are these sites worth protecting? So there is Site A, which demonstrates the rise and the fall of the first indigenous kingdom in Southern Africa between 900 and 1300 AD. Main area covers nearly 30,000 hectares and is supported by a suggested buffer zone of around 100,000 hectares. Then the Site B also appears there. It is rock art, well known for its mountainous natural landscape, important as a place of safety for many threatened and endemic species, and for its many rock paintings made by the San people over a period of 4,000 years. The site covers an area of 249,313 hectares, making it the largest protected site along the Great Escarpment edge of the plateau, the higher, more flat area of Southern Africa. Located on the border with Botswana and Namibia, in the northern part of the country, it comprises of the vast area inside Kalahari Gamespark National Park. This landscape contains evidence of humans living there since the Stone Age to the present and is associated with the culture of the San people. So these are the different World Heritage sites which appear there. Those are the different World Heritage sites which appear in that infographic. So the first question, it reads, give the names of the World Heritage sites labeled A, B, and C. So if you start with the first one, this is Mapungubwe. This is Mapungubwe, which is also known as the place of the jackal. Then we have the next one, which is the Maluti Drakensberg National Park. Drakensberg. The next one is Maluti Drakensberg Park. Then the next one would be our Komani cultural landscape. Cultural landscape. Then moving on to the next one. Give the names, we have done that. Name the province in South Africa where the mixed heritage site B is located. Maluti Drakensberg Park is located. The Maluti Drakensberg Park is located in the Maluti Drakensberg Park is located in the KwaZulu-Natal. It is located in the KwaZulu-Natal province. It's located in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. That is where it is located. Now, moving on to the next question. State two similarities between site A and C. We look at A and C. All right, A and C, both of them, they are cultural heritage sites. Both sites are cultural. You have cultural. Both of them, they have cultural elements. Simply because A talks about the San people. Then the other one talks about the Iron Age people. Then they are historical sites as well. Sites dating back to centuries ago. So both of them, they have a sense of history in them. They have cultural elements. Then they are historical sites dating back to centuries ago. Then refer to the following quotation on the articles. Some sites offer sacred places. Identify the World Heritage Site that is commonly known as the first American kingdom to trade with China in Egypt. This is Mapungubwe. Yes, it was the first African kingdom to trade with China and Egypt. Then 5.4.2, explain one reason why the site in question 5.4.1 should be preserved for future generations. 5.4.1, it is valuable. It contains valuable insights to pre-colonial civilizations, in Africa. It offers variable insight to pre-colonial civilizations in Africa. Write a paragraph evaluating two positive impacts of the sites C on the San community. It actually, so I'm going to list some of the key points which you can include in your paragraph, but the paragraph should be written in full sentences though. So, preservation of culture. Preservation of San culture and traditions. And tradition to serve the heritage, their culture from extinction. So the first reason or the first impact is to say it will be, as a result of this, the San culture will be saved from extinction. That would be the first point. Then, in addition to that, another positive impact will be empowerment of certain communities certain communities through tourism. Then, in addition to that, it gives a general sense of pride, amongst the Khoisan that they've been recognized, but amongst the San people. So it also gives something, an element of recognition of their heritage and existence. So there's also an element of recognition of their heritage and of their existence. So we have question 6.1, study the extract below and answer the questions that follow. The importance of marketing South Africa internationally. South Africa relies on attracting tourists to maintain a healthy tourism industry. International tourists may not be familiar with the experiences in South Africa. Marketing can help to make tourists aware of what South Africa has to offer. The tourism industry is very competitive, and the business must use marketing to attract tourists and encourage repeat visits. Identify the organization responsible for marketing South Africa internationally. So when you talk about the organization which has the sole responsibility of marketing South Africa internationally, this organization is known as SA Tourism. SA Tourism is the name of the organization that markets South Africa internationally. Then, apart from marketing South Africa internationally, mention one other core business of the organization identified in question 6.1.1. So, SA Tourism is also involved. It is involved in monitoring. SA Tourism monitors and evaluates performance in the tourism industry. In the tourism industry. So when we look at SA Tourism, it is also involved in the monitoring and the evaluation of performance in this particular industry. Now, moving on to 6.1.3, explain in a full sentence the importance of marketing South Africa internationally. All right, marketing South Africa internationally. South Africa internationally. Internationally. Marketing South Africa internationally informs the rest of the world. The rest of the world of the uniqueness of South Africa as a tourist destination. As a tourist destination. Which then promotes tourist arrivals. It actually promotes tourist arrivals. which promotes tourist arrivals in South Africa. Which promotes tourist arrivals in South Africa. More tourist arrivals mean more income. Result in more income. More jobs, more income, and better economic performance. Moving on to the next question. So study pictures below and answer the questions that follow. We have picture A, Getaway Show. Then we have picture B, WTM London. Match the travel trade shows shown in the pictures with the following statements. Write the name of the trade show next to the question number 6.2.1A, 6.2.1B. So we are starting with 6.2.1. A, which reads, one of South Africa's marketing events hosted annually in Cape Town, that is known as the Getaway Show. It is known as the Getaway Show. It is known as the Getaway. Then the next one, the leading global marketing event held annually in Great Britain. It is known as WTM, or in full as the World Travel Market. It is known as the WTM, or the World Travel Market. Then describe one way in which travel trade shows can be used to market South Africa through exhibitions of South African, let me call it proudly South African, of proudly South African products, and through fostering engaging travel agents, service providers, through engaging travel agents, service providers, in the tourism industry. So they can actually partner service provided in the tourism industry so that South Africa becomes, through engaging, so that South Africa becomes a destination of choice. The destination of choice for global tourism. Moving on to the next page. All right, we have, starting with the individual traveler, arrange the steps of the contribution of the distribution process of the tourism levy, A to E, in a logical way. Write only the letters A to E in the correct order next to the question number. So we have marketing activities, domestic and local. We have the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. We have the tourists. We have tourism business, accommodation, tour operator, car rental. Then we have finally E, which is the tourism marketing agents. So let me order these steps. So everything starts with C, which is the tourist. So 6.3 starts with C. C, that is the tourist. So we have the tourist arriving in South Africa. As the tourists arrive in South Africa, they move on to D. They move on to D. They use tourism businesses, services. Move on to D. They utilize the following services, which is D, tourism business. Business, which includes accommodation. That's where you find your accommodation. They sleep in hotels. They use rented cars. Then after that, we also have TOMSA, which is E. Oh, sorry. Let me retake this. Immediately after that, that's where we also see the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. That's where we see the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, which is B. So the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, TBCSA, it collects and administers, collects TOMSA, 1% levy. So it also administers TOMSA. It also administers TOMSA. Then after B, we have that money going to, after B, so we have the first thing, it's the tourist. Then immediately after the tourist, we have the Tourism Business Council, which uses collects 1% levy. Then that 1% levy goes or is administered by the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. Then after that, they give this money to TOMSA. It is actually known as TOMSA. The money which they administer is known as TOMSA. So we have E, South African Tourism, African Tourism Agency. We have South African Tourism Agency, which is the money or the TOMSA which is collected. Then that TOMSA is used for A, which are the marketing activities. So the final step would be A, marketing activities. Activities, which includes attending the ITB, organizing the Getaway Show, and also the WTM. So this brings us to the end of question 6. Now we are moving on to question 7. Read the case study below and answer the questions that follow. Then the case study appears there. It has something to do with tour vests, and we are not going to get into the details of what really is written there. So tour vests, it supports sustainable tourism. So what we need to do then, we need to define the term sustainable tourism. So question 7.1, Tourist supports sustainable tourism. So there's need for us to define the term sustainable tourism. So this is tourism. When you talk about sustainable tourism, we are talking about tourism which ensures the long-term health of destinations and communities. So when you talk about sustainable tourism, we are talking about tourism which ensures the long-term health of destinations and communities. So you can also say that tourism which can carry itself for a very, very long time, which can carry on for a long time. That is sustainable tourism, or you can simply say that it ensures the long-term health of destinations and communities. It balances the needs of destinations whilst at the same time balancing the needs of communities. Then explain the abbreviation CSI. So CSI, this is corporate social investment. Usually we are talking about a situation whereby a tourism business invests in communities. Corporate social investment. It is when tourism businesses invest in the communities in which they are doing business. Then Tourist Green Seed supports our wildlife, planet, and people. Identify the two pillars apart that form part of the triple bottom line mentioned in the statement above. So when we talk about wildlife, we are talking about the environmental pillar. The term wildlife refers to the environmental pillar. The term wildlife, this is the environmental pillar. Then when you talk about the people, we are talking about the social pillar. When you talk about people, it's basically the social pillar. All right, 7.4, explain how Tourist applies each of the two pillars in of the triple bottom line mentioned in question 7.3. So let's talk about the environmental pillar. When you talk about the environmental pillar, there is mention of rhino poaching prevention. So this can be listed under the environmental pillar. If we go back to the infographic, there is information which talks about 510 towards anti-rhino poaching. Then in the same way, there is also information talking about 216,000 towards reforestation. Reforestation is the planting of trees. Then we can say rhino poaching prevention. Then also, in addition to that, we can add reforestation as another option. So this one first, then we also have reforestation, which is the planting of trees, Then moving on to the next question. The next question also requires us to talk about the other social pillar. We haven't talked about the social pillar. How does it take care of the people around? So when it comes to the social pillar, we are going to take the information from the part whereby the group manages businesses which range from travel management, hotels, lodges, restaurant to craft, jewelry, as well as foreign exchange bureau, employ more than 5,000 people. So the fact that we have people being locally employed, 5,000 people, and partnerships with also jewelry shops, curio shops, these partnerships themselves, they show that they are supporting the local people. So we have the first thing which we are going to list. We are going to, under the social pillar, we are going to list the fact that 5,000 people are employed. Creation or employment of 5,000 people. All right, the employment of 5,000 people, that actually shows that they are concerned about the local communities in which they operate in. So that employment of 5,000 people is of intrinsic value as well. Then in addition to that, we would want to explore the next question, which will be the seventh question. You're still on the seventh question. There is a need of a definition of terms here. Define the term responsible tourist. So when you're talking about a responsible tourist, we are talking about a responsible tourist is a tourist respects other cultures, A responsible tourist respects other cultures. That is the first thing, the issue of respecting other cultures. They also conserve natural resources. Responsible tourists, they respect other cultures, conserve natural resources. Then in addition to that, we need to move on to the next question. So the definition of a responsible tourist is a tourist that respects other cultures and conserves resources. Then 7.5.2, do you think clients and tourists who buy the green seat are responsible tourists? Yes. Yes, they are responsible tourists. Are responsible tourists. Because they are providing finance for conservation. In this way, they are providing finance or money for conservation. So in that case, we can actually call them responsible tourists. They are supporting conservation efforts. They are supporting conservation efforts. So in that way, they are considered to be responsible tourists. Then the next question, which is question 8, Birding Africa, there's a case study which has something to do with Birding Africa. Then give another term for birding as a form of tourism. So birding, it is actually an example of conservation tourism. Birding is a type of of conservation tourism. So in a way, it's a niche market for environmentally. It is a niche market for environmentally conscious tourists. It is a new niche market for environmentally conscious tourists. In addition to that, we can also say that this is also an example of wildlife tourism. Wildlife tourism. Then the next question reads, read the statement. Read the statement. Question 8 reads 8.2.1. Define the concept ecotourism in your own words. So when you are talking about ecotourism, we are talking about a sustainable and responsible way to explore the natural world. The concept of ecotourism refers to a sustainable and responsible way of exploring the natural environment. The natural environment. That is what is known as ecotourism. It is a sustainable and also a responsible way of exploring the natural world or the natural environment. Then explain why birding can promote ecotourism at the West Coast National Park. It actually, birding promotes, I would write it this way, promotes bird conservation. It actually encourages the conservation of birds. So it promotes bird conservation. Then in addition to that, now moving on to the next question 8.3. 8.3 reads, suggest 2 ways in which the management of the West Coast National Park can attract environmentally conscious tourists. So they can actually do that through the use of eco certifications. The use of eco certifications, whereby they are certified to be environmentally compliant. They can use eco certifications. Then in it, they can also emphasize community involvement, emphasis of community involvement. Emphasis of community involvement is also instrumental in attracting environmentally conscious tourists. Then compile a 3-point tourist code. A code is actually a list of guidelines on how tourists can behave. Compile a 3-point tourist code for conduct for ecotourists when visiting various birding destinations. So the first thing, do not harm habitats. Habitats or the places where the birds live. Do not harm habitats. Do not destroy the places where the birds live. Do not cut down trees. Do not destroy nests. That is the first thing. Then use eco-friendly products. Use of eco-friendly products, which means products which do not harm birds, especially avoiding the use of plastic products, the use of eco-friendly products which do not put the lives of our birds at risk. Then we encourage them also to respect local environments, respect for local environments. Respect for local environments also is promoted. Then in addition to that, we also encourage them to implement sustainable practices. Implementation of sustainable practices which includes reducing pollution, reducing pollution, reducing pollution. So these are some of the points which we can include in the code of conduct for ecotourists when visiting various birding destinations, which brings us to the end of 8.3. Now we are moving on to 8.4, which you've already highlighted. We are moving on to the 9th question, which is question 9, domestic, regional, and international tourism, communication and customer care. Read the extract below and answer the questions that follow. So Rugby World Cup brings millions to the French economy. As South Africa celebrates its triumph in the Rugby World Cup 2023 host country, France had a victory of its own. The country generated a sizable economic benefit for the country. France 2023 organizing committee expected 40 million in profits at the end of the event. They plan to allocate the profits to support sport, finance, corporate social investment programs, develop infrastructure, and promote rugby in France. It's no wonder there were optimism. Some 2.5 million tickets were sold in total for the competition, with prices ranging from 10 euros to 950 euros. So the next thing is classify the Rugby World Cup as a type of an event with international significance. So this is actually a sporting event. It is actually a sporting event. It is a global sporting event. That is the correct classification. It is a global sporting event. A host country. It is a country in which an event occurs. A host country is a country in which an event occurs or takes place. Plus, that is the host country. Then moving on to 9.1.3, read the quotation below, taken from the extract, and answer the questions that follow. The event generated sizable economic benefit to the country. With reference to the quotation, write a paragraph evaluating the impact of the 2023 World Cup. Include the following: two positive impacts on the economy of France. So this one, we are going to highlight the points which you can include in a carefully constructed paragraph. So the first thing, the building of new infrastructure. The building, we are starting with the province, the positive, the building of new infrastructure to host the event. Event boosted the economy through job creation, which led to the multiplier effect. All right. New streams of income were also opened up. new streams of income were opened up and revenue was generated. Revenue refers to money. So revenue was actually generated by hosting this event. New streams of income and revenue were generated through hosting of the event. Which led and new streams of income were opened up and revenue was generated. Revenue was actually generated. Then on the negative side, the hosting of the event, it negative effects. Pollution of water bodies and the air and even the land. Pollution, so you can talk about air pollution, land, and water pollution. Then in addition to that, we have things like disruption of normal life, of normal routines of life routines. So normal local patterns of life were disturbed or they were disrupted. Then moving on to the 9th question, read the news article below and answer the questions that follow. So it has something to do with the unforeseen occurrences, the severe floods in the Western Cape. Then choose the correct term from the brackets to complete the statement. The floods are an example of an unforeseen occurrence, simply because they are not human-induced. They are not human-induced. So the correct answer is unforeseen. Unforeseen occurrences are an example of an unforeseen occurrence. Then moving on to the next question. Floods are seen as one of the factors discouraging tourists from visiting the place. Discuss the impact of floods on the following. All right. So floods, they actually affect international tourism in the sense that they destroy transport infrastructure. For example, infrastructure which relates to traveling of people. It can be roads, it can be bridges, it can be airports. So the destruction of such things, they actually affect tourism in an international way. So another thing, floods also destroy destruction of attractions. Destruction of the same attractions, the same things which people would want to come and see, can also be destroyed. Then in addition to that, it floods also put people's lives at risk. The floods put people's lives at risk. It's dangerous to travel during the time of floods. So this is 9.2.2 A. Then the local economy. It affects floods, affect production. Factories can be destroyed. Roads, farms, and even mines can cease to operate or can cease to operate because of floods. Then we can also talk about damage to key infrastructure. E.g. power supply, roads, water sources, etc. So in this way, it affects them, the economy of the country. So there will be the affection of production. So job losses, floods can lead to job losses. Job losses and destruction of businesses as well. Of businesses such as hotels, shops, Then you can also add things like they can also lead to an increase in insurance claims and other things. All right, moving on to question 9.3. Study the statistics below and answer the questions that follow. Identify by name the African market with the largest number of tourist arrivals in South Africa. So obviously that is your Southern Africa. All right, so that is the SADC market, SA. GC market, it is the largest arrival of tourists. Then explain why the first column, a region of residence, has been split into two categories shaded in bold letters. Region of, so that has been done for market segmentation. It has been done for the purpose of market segmentation to determine the origin of visitors. Refer to the business and holiday columns. Name the market with the lowest number of business tourist arrivals in 2020. All right, so the lowest number of tourist arrivals, business and holiday, the lowest number, it's coming from business Australasia. So it's coming from Australasia. Australasia is the lowest arrivals, business arrivals. Then the next question, which is 9.3.3b, state the number of people who traveled from Asia for your holiday purpose. So when we look at Asia, Asia for holiday purposes, it's sitting at 17,647. So the correct statistic there is 17,647. 17,647 people from Asia came for holiday purposes. So that is question 9. Now moving on to question 10, study the information below and answer the questions that follow. How to get honest and detailed feedback from your customers. Fine, thank you. In fact, the conversation starts as follows. How is everything so far? Fine, thank you. Then we have a caption which is written below. In restaurants around the world, the check-in dance between servers and customers is very common. Servers or waiters ask how things are after the customers receive their meals, and nearly all customers respond with an automatic fine, thank you. Suggest one reason why a response like fine, thank you does not give a detailed feedback to a restaurant. All right. The words fine, thank you. Do not this type of feedback is vague, so to say. It does not show areas of weakness or areas of improvement, areas of weakness or areas of improvement. It does not offer that opportunity so that the restaurant owners can know where they can improve or where they are doing well or their areas of weakness. So that's why it is not so much useful when it comes to feedback. So recommend one feedback method a restaurant owner can use to ensure customers give detailed feedback. We have web-based responses are very effective responses whereby customers can give their feedback online on online platforms using social media, such as Facebook, using other methods also, other platforms also. Then they can also use what we call feedback cards. Feedback cards. Then they can also use SMSs. Emails can also be used to give feedback. Then we can also make use of telephone calls can also be used to make feedback or to provide essential feedback. Moving on to question 10.3, advise a potential restaurant owner on how customer feedback can lead to excellent service delivery in their food and beverage establishment. All right, excellent customer feedback can actually lead to excellent service delivery simply because it enables the business to find out about their strengths and weaknesses. About strengths and weaknesses. It gives opportunities to the business so that they can find out about where they are struggling, so that they can work on their weaknesses and also their strengths so that they can do more in terms of where they are doing well. So in addition to that, it also offers opportunities for improvement. E.g., a customer or client can suggest a new idea. A customer can suggest a new idea or meal which can be successful in the business. All right, feedback also provides or cultivates the relationship between the business and the customer. It also cultivates a good relationship between the business and the clients. and the clients. Clients feel valued when they are allowed